Hello, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me here as I walk us through a rather short demonstration of what a successful implementation of the Breakthrough Finance strategies looks like. My name is Christian, and I am the creator of Breakthrough Finance. My mission is to show people a different approach to home financing that enables them to save tens of thousands of dollars in mortgage interest and 15 to 25 years of time. It's not too good to be true, it's just math. Understand that what I will be showing you here is really just the tip of the iceberg with our strategies. I won't be walking us through how to implement my strategies or what tools work best because that's part of what we offer when you become a Breakthrough member. But I do want to give you a preview of how the results work out and provide an understanding of a couple of basic requirements needed in order to implement these strategies successfully. My caveat, just to get it out in the open, is that many of these numbers are just that, numbers. Your actual numbers would most likely look different. So if you'd want to get a deeper look into what this would look like for your specific situation, I'd really recommend you set up a free 30-minute discovery call through our Facebook page. I'm going to put a graphic in here that shows you how to do that. Hopefully you see that. This will enable us to get a picture of your situation to see how this could impact you. I've already led many families through this process, so I'd love to help you too. I'm also tell you, I'll also tell you if it isn't a good fit for you, because the truth is it isn't a good fit for everyone. It is, however, a wonderful fit for many. Also, just to get this out in the open, I am not an attorney. I'm not a financial advisor, a loan officer, or anything like that, but I am a former financial advisor with Edward Jones and USAA. I've done deep analytics with Walmart and the Nielsen Company. I absolutely love Microsoft Excel, and I'm doing real estate here in the DFW area. As we go along, feel free to post any comments or questions, and I'll get to them after we are done with this video. So let's do this. Let's jump into a scenario. To get started, I want to take just a minute to set the stage. This cash flow strategy is centered around saving a ton of money in mortgage interest, and it is this savings that enables us to pay off our mortgage very quickly. Just to make this more practical, let me tell you about a conversation I had a few days ago with a couple about their home loan and what we do at BreakThru. They told me that they have a home that they purchased about 3 years ago for $250,000. They were able to put $50,000 in as a down payment when they bought the home, and they got a loan for the remaining $200,000. The loan that they got was a 30-year mortgage, pretty standard, at 4.5%. For their income, they were bringing home about $5,000 each month. Now that's after taxes, that's after 401k and insurance and all those things. While their expenses also averaged around $3,000, not including their mortgage. That's important. $3,000, not including their mortgage. Believe it or not, their expenses were pretty high compared to what was coming in each month, because if you add the cost of their mortgage back into their expenses, it would mean they were cutting it pretty close each month. And that's okay. But as we continued the conversation, I was putting these numbers into my tools so I could verify some information and get an understanding of the cost of their home. You see, many of us think that the cost of our home is what we paid for it. And while that's true, that's not the whole truth, especially when we're getting a loan on our home. It does certainly represent how much it took to buy the home from whoever had it prior to us, but that is just part of the cost. It's not the whole cost. You see, in order to determine the whole cost of our home, we need to add the price we paid and the cost of the loan we obtained. I hope that makes sense, but here's a graphic that shows this more clearly. Okay, you should see it now. So as you can see, the total cost of our home is the price we paid for it, plus the cost of the interest on our loan. And interestingly, if you go and pull up your closing statements on your mortgage when you got it, in one of those pages, in one of those forms, there ought to be a figure that tells you the total cost of the loan. Oftentimes, that's not something that's a whole lot of emphasis is put upon whenever we're closing, but it should be there somewhere. Also, I'd like to just point out a couple of quick stats to keep in mind as we move forward. Nationally, the median length of time people stay in their home before moving to their next is about 10 years. Not coincidentally, the largest proportion of mortgage interest collected by banks and mortgage companies is also during the first 10 years on a 30-year mortgage. Then, Once we purchase a new home and get a new loan, the cycle starts all over again. Now, 15-year mortgages are better, but they still are not as efficient as the strategies we teach. If a refinance is something you are considering, please, please, please talk to me first. You will be glad you did. Now, at this point, you might be asking, why are we talking about all of this? I just wanted to know what the breakthrough finance strategies do. And I get it, I really do. But I believe it's important to know the total cost of our home in order to be able to compare that to something different and to see if the breakthrough solutions are a good fit for you. And now that I had this information from this couple, back to that, I was able to show them a basic comparison of where they are at versus what they could do with my solutions. And the result was impressive. So without further ado, let's take a look at that comparison that I showed them. Okay, hopefully you're seeing that. So here's a comparison, and I want to highlight a few things here. Number one, if you remember, this couple had originally gotten a mortgage for 200,000, excuse me, for 200,000 when they bought their home. In this chart, we start with a balance of 190,000, and that's because this couple had paid off about 10,000 of their mortgage balance in those 3 years. So that's the balance we will also start with for the breakthrough strategy. Next, the interest rate for their mortgage was 4.5%. So again, to keep this make this a fair comparison, we'll use a 4.5% interest rate with the breakthrough strategy as well. Then, as this works out, we can see that it would take 10.5 years to pay off the loan with the breakthrough strategies compared to 27 years on their mortgage. That's about 16 and a half years of time savings. I don't mean to make that really a big deal, but it kind of is. Finally, we can see that the total interest cost with the breakthrough strategies is significantly less than the interest costs for their mortgage. It's a little over $138,000 in mortgage interest costs versus about $66,000 in interest costs with the breakthrough strategies. That comes out to be about a savings of around $72,000 in interest costs, give or take. When the couple saw this comparison, they immediately had about 10 other questions like, how is this possible? Is this for real? What am I missing? What's the catch? Do other people even do this? Why haven't I heard of this before? And then how do you do this? Then as I was answering their questions, the couple actually started to get noticeably frustrated. And I was thinking I must have said something wrong, but thankfully it wasn't me. They were actually frustrated that they had not been told how much their loan was going to cost them. I guess maybe it hadn't sunk in. And they were mad that they hadn't been told that there were other options available to them. Now, please understand that I'm not against mortgages. I'm not anti-mortgage, and I'm certainly not against loan officers. I know many of them, I'm friends with them, and many of them really are great people with good hearts, so I want to honor them. And they're doing their best to help people with the tools available to them. At the same time, you do have a choice as to whether or not you will continue to follow that herd or consider something that could be much more beneficial. So I explained to this couple that this strategy really is what it is, and it's just math. Plenty of people have and are doing this, but many of us likely haven't heard of this before because banks and mortgage companies aren't all that incentivized to tell you about it, and a lot of them aren't trained on the strategy either. And let's face it, they really do make much more money off of mortgages compared to this strategy. Plus, they definitely don't know how the strategy we will be implementing works, nor how it creates such incredible efficiency. You see, typical closing costs for a mortgage are around 2% of the loan. So on a $250,000 loan, that amounts to around $5,000. Closing costs with what we are doing here are very minimal, and in some cases, they're actually zero. For my wife and I, that was the case, and for several others that I've helped, it's also zero. To be fair, I believe it's important to talk about who my strategies are a good fit for because they are not a fit for everyone. And there are two very basic requirements to do this strategy well. And although they're basic, many are not able to do them. Number one, we need to live within our means. Don't spend more than we earn. Stay disciplined in managing our finances. I feel like Dave Ramsey sometimes when I say this. But this is the reason I find that this strategy often works well for some of the families who are doing the Dave Ramsey or some other budgeting solution. So number one is we need to live within our means. Number two is that we have to be able to use self-control when we have access to funds. See, part of the benefit of this strategy is that you are able to pay off your loan extremely quickly. It's great. But as you pay it off, you will also have access to the equity that builds as a result. If we're unable or unwilling to refrain from accessing this in ways that we shouldn't, I would not recommend my solutions as a fit for you. Now, if we are able to do these two things well, we can be successful with the strategies I am teaching. We can pay off our home in 5 to 10 years and save tens of thousands of dollars in interest costs. We may even be one of those families like some I have worked with that will save over $100,000 in interest costs compared to their mortgage. I feel like an infomercial right here, but it's true. So, okay, we've seen the comparison of our strategies to a typical 30-year mortgage, but how do we know, or how do you know, if they would work for you and what all is involved? Well, I just want to tell you, first off, you won't know whether they work for you if you don't ask me. So that's for sure. So just go and book a free 30-minute session with me through my BreakThru Finance Facebook page. I'm going to bring that down right now. Hopefully you can see all that. Once you schedule this, I'm going to shoot you a message of some info that I'm going to need in order to walk you through what my strategies can do for you and your family. If we find out that my strategies aren't a fit, I'm going to plainly tell you. I don't want to do something that's not going to be good for you. But in that case, I will at least let you know what would need to happen in order for the strategy to work for you in the future, so that when the time comes, you're ready to go. But if my strategies would be a benefit to you, we'll talk about what needs to happen to get started. We'll review the features of my program and talk about how I get compensated. And just so you know, I don't set this up with you and leave you all on your own unless that's what you'd want for some reason. My program comes with on-demand video training accessible anywhere you have internet on any device, because it's all accessible through our private Facebook group. You get 10 one-on-one coaching sessions that you can schedule at your convenience. You get credit and budgeting resources. You get tools to help you look at various scenarios with this strategies. And you get access to a private Facebook community of people who are like-minded in their desire to be mortgage-free. And then you will also get instant access to future tools and resources as they are made available. I'm not going to charge you more for that. It's a one-time fee. Truly, I have yet to see something that compares with what we are doing here in terms of price, value, and service. And I've done a lot of research to see what else is being done in this space. So as we wrap up here, I want you to know that this live will become a video on our page, so feel free to watch it again or share it with someone you feel could benefit from our program. There are definitely many out there who could benefit. They just don't know about it yet. All right, well, that's all I have for you this evening. I hope this has been beneficial for you and perhaps piqued your interest in what we are doing here. Hey, this could even be something that is a start of a new chapter for you or your family. It has had a major impact on our family and others. And this is really just the start. So there is much more we can do with these strategies. So I invite you to start the conversation as we begin to teach you how to break through with your finances. Let's do this.